Hello everyone, this is Cindy Seidelman here once again with another wonderful, extravagant top 5 list. Now, Mark Goodson, Bill Todman Productions, when you think of quality game shows, that's the signal of excellence right there. I mean, they've hardly came up with anything that could be called bad or middling, put it that way. But that's kind of what I've been known for 13, 14 years now. It's highlighting the lowlights of game shows. And it kind of seems sacrilege to talk about a Mark Goodson show in a bad light. Like, some of them did have some great qualities to them. However, there are a couple that, well, didn't. So, I think it's time that I do a ranking of them. Yeah, let's do it. The top 5 worst Mark Goodson, Bill Todman shows of all time.
One thing was for sure. They both believed Sparks to be a total tool.
Be an exciting contest which shows that divorced couples can still have fun together, right?
Mythological hero H-list. Feud. On the spot dice spin.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Now, my number 5 might be a lot of people's number 1 or number 2. But I think there was more going for this show than anything else on this list. And to start with number 5, it's their earliest failure, What's Going On. This was done 1954-55. It had some pretty good people on the panel. I like Danny Oakland. I like Kitty Carlisle. I think Hy Gardner was there too. Some Kitty Carlisle, Hy Gardner, they would be on to tell the truth later on. What caused the show to fail are a couple of reasons. There's Lee Bowman, who was not a good host at all. Even though on the last episode he kind of got it, but not really. And another problem that this show really had was that the premise of the show was what was going on and then trying to show it, and because technology isn't what it would become even 20 years later, we'll say. 20 years later. So you had these big, bulky cameras and trying to do remote feeds of everything. And then you have one of the 6 players or celebrities in this remote location trying to explain trying to give yes or no answers to what's actually happening. It's another in a long line of What's My Line, I've Got a Secret, Names the Same style shows, which by this time was becoming very passé. And the 2 of the best quality, What's My Line and I've Got a Secret, because they have the best comedy value. You had a panel that really coalesced and was able to bounce off of one another. And both of these are just really fun shows, especially I've Got a Secret. It was just too ahead of its time to pull something off like that and have it be decent. And that's why some of the times the microphone, you couldn't hear what the on the scene person was saying. And so that caused a lot of problems. This only lasted 5 episodes. 4 of them exist, and they have been reran before. I would say check out an episode just to see how baffling the show's execution was and how they were able to execute it. in the early days of television. Number 4 on this list is because one half of the show is pretty darn good, but the other half of the show is so mind-numbingly bad. And with that synopsis, I've just described the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. You have Match Game, which is fine. You had Gene hosting, and they usually got panelists who have done Match Game before, or if they haven't done Match Game before, they would have fit right in, like Leonard Fry, who was not on the 70s Match Game. He would have fit right in. You had Charles, who was there. Nedra Vols was not on the 70s show, but she would have fit right in, especially in the 4 spot or the 6 spot. You had Arsenio Hall, Bruce Baum, various comedians who knew the game. They would have fit right in. And then you had the bad half of the show, which was essentially 30 minutes of the show in the Hollywood Squares part of the show. Bowser was way out of his league on this show. Now, he did fine on the Pop and Rocker game. He was fine there because he was more in his element, music and music trivia, which I would love to hear a podcast about John Bauman and his music career of Sha-Na-Na and all of that stuff. But Hollywood Squares having to be played straight does not work. And with the style of the questions being descriptive and then an either or, does not work for Hollywood Squares. And the reason for this is apparently Goodson did not want to pre-write any zingers or anything that the celebrities could play off of. So that killed a bit of the format. What also killed a bit of the format was having penalties that could cause a win, which is something that no other version of Hollywood Squares did. You had to earn it yourself. So it made some instances where you had a massive blowout, where I think there was like a $1,600 to $25 game that happened on the show. I can't recall the exact number, but it was bad. And that does not make for fun television. And it was not good at all. Set was okay. And I just can't get the Hollywood Squares. Hollywood Squares is one of my favorite game shows of all time. And to quote Bob Bowden, it was Hollywood Squares' least desirable version. It was rough. So much so that not even Match Game and the Super Match could save it. And that's why he was gone 9 months, unannounced finale, and I can't remember what replaced it. I think it was either a soap opera or NBC at that time just gave the 3 o'clock hour back to the affiliates. Either way, not good. There is a tenet in game shows. If you take a contestant format, which had either a celebrity and a contestant, or it was all contestants, all regular people, and you decide to turn it into an all-celebrity format, it is doomed for failure. There have been so many instances of this, and Mark Goodson has been guilty of this twice. One of them was the 1979 version of not Break the Bank, but Beat the Clock, which had a contestant format for 7 weeks, and then switched to an all-celebrity format, and it didn't work. And the show was gone to about another 3 months later, because the show didn't last too long after that. But I am more forgiving of that because, you could have fun with that. what you can't really grasp is the show that originated the partnership format, where celebrities and contestants were playing together and ruining that. So my third worst Goodson Todman show is Password AllStars, which became this weird tournament format where for 1 week you had 6 celebrities playing, and whoever got the most points out of that format would win $5,000 for the week, and then move on to finals week where they could win $25,000 for the charity doing the same thing. Password wasn't in the best shape in September of 94 when they started this format, but it was made a lot worse, although the set upgrade was fabulous. And we got that when, after the second All-Star tournament, it was announced that they would be reverting back to a contestant format with bigger money, bigger payouts, and an altered format. And I like that 1975 Password format. Unfortunately, it was too little too late, and the damage that Password All-Stars created, it was just too much to overcome, and Password would be canceled in 75 and replaced with show-offs. Now, getting back to Password, I am saddened that ABC Password is gone. Apparently, the story that we have is the Password tapes along with show-offs and I think the Better Sex, those were all reused to do Feud. And I don't know if that's true or not. My money is because with so much old tape stock being found and some of these old shows being found again, maybe it's not the case. And we've actually had an episode of Show Offs found, which was the second to last episode. But who knows? Who knows if Password still exists? But it's looking to be the true story that they've been reused. And I would love to see more ABC Password. Well, here's hoping. Remember what I just said about the tape stock that was being reused for Family Feud? ABC Password, show-offs, and the second worst Goodson Todman show of all time in the Better Sex. The format is clunky. It's got the most annoying game show theme of all time. I know people like to say the All-Star Blitz theme is the worst, but apparently that was not the theme that was used for when it actually aired, because the hubba he hubba 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 he hubba hubba hubba, that part of the All-Star Blitz theme was not aired. That was not on the show, so it doesn't count. But the Better Sex theme is awful. Like, you hear, like in the intro, you had Bill Anderson, who is one of the most unsung game show hosts of all time, one of the best that ever did it. And then you have Sarah Purcell, who is the equivalent of a Stepford wife. And when there's one part where Bill Anderson's holding his ears like this and go, doesn't want to hear it. That, to me, I think of that when I hear of the Better Sex. It was like, I don't want to hear it anymore. Shut up. But anyway, now we get to the format. And it's this weird Hollywood Squares-esque agree, disagree sort of thing, or prediction, whether they gave a right answer or a wrong answer. And it didn't work. And you have 6-person teams, which meant the payouts were, when you split it up 6 ways, is pretty low. So, I think one team got to like $28,000 I don't know what the most from that show. I think it was like 29,000. So each team member got a little less than 5,000 for like 7 games and something like that. And I just can't think of anything good to say about this show, except for Bill Anderson, which is one better than the worst Mark Goodson show of all time. But before I talk about that, here's some honorable mentions. Now, Number Please was a very interesting word game format, which is something that hadn't been done. It's like Hangman, but you pick numbers and they would reveal a letter and they would describe a prize. Now, it might seem archaic, but it's actually a pretty decent show. Now, the reason I have this here as a dishonorable mention is namely because we did an induction of it many years ago. And there's just not much to it. And also what saves the show is Bud Collyer being amazing, as he always is. And this is around the time Bud Collyer joined a rare group where, and I think he was the first to do 3 different shows at the same time, because Beat the Clock was still going in 1960 on ABC. He was doing Number Please, and he was still doing To Tell the Truth. So, yeah, that's why Bud Collyer is one of the greats. As for this show, not so much, but not bad enough to where it deserved a spot on the list proper. Trivia Trap was the last original Goodson show to actually be on the air, because everything after Trivia Trap would be a revival. Card Sharks, Family Feud, Match Games, To Tell the Truth. And he was the producer of Classic Concentration, which is essentially a revival of Concentration in the 70s that he produced. The first format was fine because you actually had to avoid the correct answer, or the trivia trap. But the second format was pretty... I think we'll save that for another video that I plan on doing in a few months' time when we get into the worst format changes of all time. It's only a dishonorable mention because it was a revival of a show, and it does not count proper because Mark Goodson didn't produce it. Fremantle did, although it was a Mark Goodson production. Card Sharks of 2001 still sucks. Although, to be frank, I would like to see one of the first episodes tape where they had this weird format that kind of got the show to stop production after the week and totally revamp. So, if we could find a video of that first taping session where it had that format, I would like to see that. Hopefully the fine folks, I know Wink Martindale's channel has connections, so who knows, we might see that in the future. I mean, we saw the pilot we saw the Pat Bullard pilot, and that was okay. But the show that we actually got was not good at all. I mean, pretty barren set, and a lot of the pieces for that show kind of got reused for the first season of Whammy. So that's always interesting. Hey, we just had Earth Day when I'm taping this, so hey, thumbs up for recycling. This is by far the worst Goodson Todman show of all time, because I can't think of anything good about this format. I can't think of anything good about the host. I can't think of anything good about the set. There is absolutely no good to this show whatsoever, and that is mind readers. Now, the premise for this show is a celebrity has to guess whether a contestant said yes or no to a question, and in a format that I personally don't like, it's men against women. Just to state for the record, I need to do a list of worst gimmicks in game shows. And Battle of the Sexes is way up there. Because name me one show that had a Battle of the Sexes gimmick that actually did good. You can't. Because all of them were short-lived, and all of them were pretty much bad. The Better Sex, all about the opposite sex. Mind Readers, the 2006 revival of Chain Reaction. I can't think, off the top of my head, a boys against girls or men against women format that actually worked. I think the best one might be Bruce Forsyth's Hot Streak, but that's because that's on the strength of the format rather than the gimmick itself. And that show only lasted 13 weeks. But I digress. So it's kind of a lame format. What also doesn't help it is Dick Martin is the host, and unfortunately that was a NBC requirement because Dick Martin was under contract, and Mark Goodson worked with Dick Martin on Match Game and other shows. So a panelist he's great at, a host he is not. Like, he just seemed lost. And he would have been much better suited for, like, no, I don't think he'd be suited for anything as a host. It kind of falls in that same trap that you have with Nipsey Russell. Anytime that he does a show, it just doesn't seem right that he's hosting, because he's much better off as a celebrity panelist, and he works great there, but you see him hosting, and he just doesn't get it. Like, Juvenile Jury was probably the best one, because that's not really a game show, it's just a discussion show, and he can play off the kids and play off the humor, and he seemed to be really good at that. But with a show like Your Number's Up, and the pilots that we've seen of him with Star Wars or That's Life, it didn't work. And the same thing with Dick Martin here, except worse. Like, he just seemed to lazily go through the motions of being a host. He was acting like a host. And that's why I kind of give Lee Bowman a little bit of leeway, because this was a brand new format. This was like a brand new genre of being. And Dick Martin could have easily gotten advice from Gene, because he would keep on doing Match Game. And it led to one of my favorite small gags on the show, where on Match Game, Peter Marshall was on the show. He did Match Game when it was syndicated. And Peter made this match about a show, and Dick goes, he's a great host. Yeah, he is. He's like, and then Dick goes, he can host Mind Readers. And then everybody had a great laugh for that, because everybody knew Match Games was a failure. Mind Readers was a failure, not Match Game. Mind Readers was the failure. The bonus round had this judge the jury, where you had a group of 10 people. That would be recycled for Card Sharks with Bob Eubanks, when they had the audience poll question. And it kind of worked better for Card Sharks. And then that would also be the second bonus game for the second car format for Card Sharks, which not really a fan of the car game on Card Sharks, whatever format it was. Although, if you got to implement one thing, the audience poll question was better. And the set was just generic, not really interesting at all. I will give it 1 point in its favor over Better Sex, and that is the theme does not make me want to put an ice pick through my ears. But everything else is worse than Better Sex. The hosting, the set, the format is just bad. Like when talking about the show, I fell asleep during the review many years ago. But either way, it's just awful. It lasted 6 months, which is probably 13 weeks longer than it did, but I think Goodson had like a 6-month contract with the show. It was dumped and long forgotten, and from what I gather, a victim of the tapes being recycled for NBC for various projects, which, no big loss there. Would be interesting to see if there was actually any improvement from what about the one full episode that we have with Joyce Bulifant and Jack Jones, but I doubt it. But Mind Readers is the worst show that Mark Goodson, Bill Todman ever produced. And I'd like to thank you for watching this top 5. I'm sorry if I got a little ranty there for a second. But I'd like to thank everybody for watching. And if you liked what you saw, give this video a thumbs up, share it on all the socials. And if you want to see more, subscribe to this channel, because we try to put out a video around once every 10 days. It just depends on the schedule with myself, Mark Power, who does the Games of Canada, and everything that is going on in our lives. But if you want to see the videos a day in advance, like these wonderful people right up here, become a Patreon backer at patreon.com/gameshowgumbo. I am Cindy Saddleman, and we will see you next time on the Game Show Gumbo channel. Bye-bye.